approach runway 26 left. Floor vector to the paddock port and Indiana's landing runways. Runway 26 left for large aircraft and runway 26 right for light aircraft.
Back in the studio, boys.
Hey.
Welcome, everyone.
It feels good.
Good to be back.
Yeah, great to be back. I wonder if that little bit of time away from the studio would have improved our podcasting skills. Time will tell, I suppose.
Yeah, it hasn't improved our setup skills.
Well, considering we had to bring everything in here,
Start again
from scratch, not too bad, but nice to be back anyway. And but it was also nice to experience doing this show from remotely from home. At least we know we can do it.
Yeah.
So if we do find ourselves away from each other for a while, we can still push out a show, which is great.
Well, that's it. I think, what we did the last couple of weeks individually was a bit of upskilling. We had to, particularly Brett and myself, had to first of all go and learn how to do a proper setup at home ourselves. I mean, you're quite used to it already, Brian. Setting up the cameras, playing around with the sound and everything. So we were upskilling while you were busy learning how to swaddle and change nappies and mix formula.
Yeah. 100% right.
I'm not sure who got it right. Can you swaddle better than I can set up my camera now?
Swaddle.
The non-parent.
Yeah, you can tell who's the non-parent.
Yeah. On that bombshell, Craig Wood insisted that we give this to you today on the show.
On the show.
On the show, yeah. And you have to open it on camera.
The show.
So
All right, let's do it.
that's from Craig Wood.
I'm nervous about this. Brett, do you want to explain what's going on to the people not watching the video?
So there is a polka-dotted gift and packet for Brian, considering that he's just got back. And all he's used to doing nowadays is changing nappies and mixing formula. And we thought he was the podcast host at one stage.
Well, a very nice note here from Craig, which I'm going to read afterwards.
And there's just quite a few packets, quite a bit of wrapping.
Yeah.
I have a feeling it's going to get smaller and smaller.
Hey, check at this.
That's
So,
awesome.
How's that?
Yeah. New to the crew.
New to the crew. Love it.
How cool is that?
Let's put it down, yeah.
Yeah.
That's awesome. And then this as well. Thank you, Craig. That's fantastic, man. Spoiled.
There we go.
Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, no, he was very adamant that we make an arrangement to get together to deliver this.
Oh, that's
gift for you.
fantastic.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Craig. Yeah, I've actually we've been really spoiled by a lot of people. Yeah. Brett's Brett's kit that he gave us has been put to use. Ryan's car seat has been put to serious use. So thanks to my crew for helping me out. But guys, let's get to it. A lot of news this week. I've picked up quite a bit. Discam's having a big sale on Huggies nappies. And this is the wrong show.
We know where you've been the last couple of days.
Jeez. Yeah, I know. But what an awesome experience, sure. But
Become shareholders in Baby World and
yeah.
Oh, jeez.
Baby City, Brett. Come
Baby
on,
City,
man.
jeez.
Get to the
I really,
program
sorry
now.
guys, I haven't prepared for this properly today. Can I be excused?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, let's start off OUTA hour last night on Facebook, listening to Wayne Duvenacher talk, and a lot of stuff going on about Mango. OUTA's saying that this is illegal. It's misdirection of funds. It wasn't part of the business rescue plan at SAA, and they're going to fight it. So this isn't the end of the story from a Mango perspective. I know they're operating right now, but there's a lot still to happen there, and they certainly are going to fight it. They're saying it's illegal, and for them to transfer that money to the subsidies is not on anyway.
Seldom that OUTA will step into something if they don't know the legalities around it. So they won't take on something where they're not 100% sure.
No.
So there's got to be there's smoke here. So there's a fire somewhere. Just figuring out what it is and what the impact is and how long it's going to take to do that is the other story, because this is not OUTA stands up and then everyone stops and says, "Oops, we're sorry, we're going to fix it." This is going to go to court. This is a protracted process. It will be. There's no doubt about it. If Mango carries on flying at the moment and everyone benefits from it, great. Until a decision is made.
Yeah, look, Mango operating still one thing, but I mean all this noise about SAA allegedly saying that they're going to hopefully start operating June, July, August.
I get August now.
I mean, come on. And then there was an article doing the rounds about them. They're not going to really be ready to do any international long-haul flights until at least 2023.
Yeah.
But
come on.
Is there any indication of aircraft?
Nothing.
Have they?
Nothing.
Have pilots been rehired?
No.
No.
Been
Well,
rehired?
not
Not
that I
we
know.
know.
The CEO was put under a bit of pressure a couple of weeks ago on the morning show on SABC, and they were pushing him for a start date and that, but it wasn't forthcoming. It was quite a good interview, that. But what the plan is and where they're going to go, who knows. I think what came out of this for me last night was around the world, governments are supporting aviation in the country. Whereas in South Africa, the government is supporting only the state-owned carrier, the one that's operating right now, which is Mango, where essentially Safair, Airlink and Lyft are all operating on their own accord, and it's difficult. There's aircraft are flying at 41,000 feet. They normally fly at 37,000, so that's an indication straight away that the aircraft aren't full. I booked my mom a ticket up from Cape Town yesterday, and the airfares are cheap.
Really?
They are seriously cheap. So it doesn't look as if domestically we are operating anywhere near capacity. So it just highlights the fact again that that support is given to Mango and SAA, of course, but obviously we were never expecting them to support the other carriers, which is sad, I suppose.
That's anybody expects anything different than that is a little bit delusional, quite honestly.
Naive.
It's never going to happen. Government is going to focus on their entities. Everybody else is competition. But I'm not so sure that your private airlines are really too concerned.
No.
It'd be great to have them up and running sometime. When the CEO says there's with a view to starting July, maybe August, that clearly indicates there's no plan. The guys are still fumbling around. So let them run that process. The other airlines, let's carry on. But this is the time of year also where numbers, if we had to look back, would never be high in any case. Beginning of winter, people are not really traveling. I mean, business, yes.
Yeah.
But, hopefully towards the end of the year, when we start hitting our spring, summer again, things are going to be different, and hopefully the numbers are going to start climbing.
Funny enough, the charter market is usually quite busy this time of the year because now remember, especially like in your game lodges, now is the best time of the year for game viewing.
Yeah.
So a lot of overseas travel happens. So I would expect the lulls in domestic travel to rather be more like your early January, February. Not now. It should still be fairly busy, but it is what it is.
Well, maybe the charter side is increasing.
It is starting to pick up.
Yeah.
Slowly.
Yeah.
But funny enough, it doesn't help though. Like I know there's a charter going on at the moment. These people have coming out to SA. They're traveling around Cape Town, Kruger. They're supposed to go to Zambia sometime later this week, but Zambia 2 days ago it said nope, they're not allowing any more South Africans into the country. So
You know, you've
these
got
people are already here from overseas, and now they've got to alter their plans.
That's a step.
It's quite a balls up there.
But but the fact is Zambia stopping South Africa.
Yeah, I mean, for Pete's sake. But it's cool because they were going to Livingston to check out the Vic Falls. So all they're going to do now is go to the Zimbabwean side.
Yeah.
So
exactly.
Zimbabwe wins.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah. Someone's going to win.
Yeah. Anyway.
Staying on the tourism side, I hope we don't start seeing this trend. A big oil conference that was supposed to be held in Cape Town in November has now been shifted to Dubai. EXPO tourism is a big thing in South Africa, and it looks like this is the beginning of a trend because there's a few other conferences that were supposed to be held, and they are now looking at other options. Obviously, slow vaccination rollout here in South Africa, limited travel, there's restrictions still, and you can't take the risk if you're holding a big conference or an expo. You're not going to take the risk. So yeah, that oil conference is now going to be in Dubai. Not brilliant. The board of airline representatives of South Africa, they've come out and what's her name again?
Zaks Ramasia.
Ramasia.
Wasn't she involved at SAA a while back?
I can't. The name rings a bell. To be honest, I haven't really followed too closely, what the board's been doing. But there's a big call from them at the moment to get government to support the tourism side, and particularly with a balanced, risk-adjusted strategy to get things going again. Obviously, there's the threat now of the third wave and what they're trying to say, and I think it's preemptive to say, listen, if numbers do increase here, please can we work together to control the restrictions that are put in place, against the airlines. Because I think they're just trying to say, listen, they can't afford to have the third wave coming in and then we shut everything down again as we did before, because that's simply not going to work. So I think they're just preempting this and getting it out there before, hopefully things don't get any worse, but in case they do. So I think quite good that they came out and said that. I just want to go back a second here as well, because that Mango story is not really finished. Obviously, we've heard about OUTA and what they want to, what they plan to do. But there's criticism as well coming from Kirby Gordon to say that these guys are undercutting prices at the moment.
Yeah.
And it doesn't help anyone, does it? I mean, Mango will then operate at a loss. Airlink and SAFE need to drop their prices, so they start operating at a loss. It's kind of an everyone loses bar the customer who gets a slightly cheaper ticket. But right now it's all about supporting the airlines. So this undercutting is not good for the market, and it's illegal.
I have a question though. How competitive is Mango really at the moment? I think because aren't they only operating 4 airplanes? Versus SAFE and Carmen that have got much bigger fleets, Airlink. So I mean, how competitive are they really?
Ryan, we've spoken about it a few times, and we've even taken a bit of criticism for criticizing Mango. But I mean, yesterday I said I was just looking at the net and ticket prices and that. A return from Cape Town, Joburg and back on SAFE 1,850. Lift was 1,500 Rand. Airlink 1,700. And Mango sold out because I think you can only book a couple of days in advance. Because this was planned for the 2nd of June, which is not that far away.
Yeah.
But it just says sold out, sold out, sold out. So yeah, how competitive are they if you can't even book a ticket on them in the first place?
Yeah.
So it doesn't.
Brian, go back there. Tell me why it's illegal for them to drop the cost.
Well, SAA were taken on a while back. I think was it Comair that took them on. They dropped the prices.
It's got something to do with the competitions commission or something. They're not allowed to.
So my competitions board will come into play when there's collusion.
Yeah.
where you have the main airlines all saying, guys, we're gonna choose a ticket range between 1,500 and 1,700. We're all gonna stick to it. That's collusion. That is illegal. But if you got a little widget A and I've got widget A as well, and I sell it for 10 rand cheaper than you, that's competition. There's nothing illegal about
Not if you're being supported by the government and they can make as big a loss as they want.
Well, I suppose if it comes down to the eventual losses that
They're
that
operating
an
at a loss.
well,
Whether you lose an extra million a month,
but
it
should
doesn't
they be
matter.
operating? That's the question. So that's why OUTA's getting involved in any case.
Exactly.
So maybe the illegal aspect comes into actually you shouldn't be operating, guys. Bottom line, that's what the situation is, especially pushing money elsewhere to other entities or receiving a bailout when the other airline, the pilots haven't even been paid. So, yeah.
Yeah. Well, I think it goes back to as well, around the rest of the world, you've got governments doing their best to support, and that, look, some of them are doing more than others, but there is a curtain of support around the airlines in the country, whereas in South Africa, you got the complete opposite. You've got support to one airline, and now they are undercutting the others. So illegal or not, I don't know, but it's certainly not ethical.
Yeah, government is supporting the airline that they are going to loot from anyway. So they're just lining their back pockets in an arse backwards kind of way, like they always have done.
So ethical as well aside, it's just not a wise business decision. You are receiving money, you're not sure you're going to operate, so you cut your profit effectively off every single ticket just to try and grab a little bit of the market. Grab the market in another way. Become creative. Do something different with the airline. I don't know. But yeah, not a good business decision. I wouldn't imagine so.
From our side, obviously, with the crew that are operating there, certainly don't want them to lose their jobs and positions. So from a pilot, cabin crew perspective, everything fantastic that they're operating.
Exactly.
And listen, first prize is for them to carry on operating, still exist, and be a genuine competitor to the rest. But only if it's done fairly. You can't do it at the detriment of Safair and Link,
Exactly.
who are doing their best to run a successful operation, but then be undercut from underneath. That's just not on. But anyway, let's see what happens there. Don't want to comment too much because the legal ramifications are obviously certainly no legal expert, but I don't believe that. Certainly not ethical. Should we talk about? We spoke about it on our live show on Tuesday evening. Skylink. I don't want to go and diss.
Is this still going?
It is, because I don't want to go and diss this new airline, but can we just chat about it, the issues that they might have along the way. Okay, first of all, the name. Roger Foster will fight the name. I don't see our, what do you call the Companies Act, CRPC.
Yeah.
I don't see them approving an airline to fly regionally called Skylink, first of all.
I think they want to, the way they're advertising this whole thing is it's going to be called South African Skylink Airways.
Yeah.
I mean, it's South African Skylink Airways. That's what I've seen come through on all the livery templates that they're putting out, or whatever the case may be.
How many of those have you seen, Ryan?
About 100, probably more. Not as many as nappies that you've changed, but quite a few.
Look, so the name is the one thing. The second thing is the Sukhoi type that they plan to use. Major issue. Hasn't been a good aircraft, bar I think in Eastern Europe. They've used it, but not a successful aircraft by any stretch of the imagination. SA Express, we're looking at them at some point, so all the figures that came back from that were not good. The support is known to be poor. Don't want to say too much here. I might get locked up in Middle East.
No, but even
Russian,
Russian. Before you go down that route, I mean, you're going to start an airline. First of all, you need an air service license, and you need an AOC, aircraft operator certificate. Those two pieces of paper take at the very least, when the CAA is operating at their
Full
prime,
steam, yeah.
about 2 years, if you're lucky. Because, I mean, it's a hell of a process to go through, and it's expensive. So, at least 2 years. And then you've got to have all the post holders and backup and the brains behind this operation, let alone then the aircraft and the crew. I mean,
But did someone not do a recent report on this, stating that Sukhoi has no idea about this new airline?
There's lots of stuff around, Brett. There's reports come in. The best one and the one that I found to be the most honest was the one that came out of Airspace Africa. The headline there was titled "New SAA Successor or Pipe Dream." We're involved in aviation. We know the pitfalls. The owner of this is an entrepreneur, and he is not an aviator. He hasn't been involved in. It is mentioned there that he owns a airline, I don't know if it's a charter airline or what, in Botswana. I try to look up that airline. I cannot find any information on them. I've never heard of them myself. But let's give him the benefit of the doubt, okay? New type, name, AOC, AMO. Who's going to support that? Every single flight needs to be signed out. There is no Sukhoi operator in South Africa. There's certainly no AMO. So getting that alone, Ryan, is probably a good year. Securing the routes and licenses we've spoken about. But then what concerns me even more is there's been a couple of posts about what aircraft they plan to utilize, and there's mention of E190, obviously the Sukhoi, and I saw the other day an A330 for their long haul. That's a real mix match of aircraft. I mean, it's not that easy.
Especially considering airlines around the world are choosing aircraft very carefully so that they have one AMO that they can rely on.
Well, that's exactly it.
Now there's just massive diversification here. I think that could alone be a massive pitfall.
Well, it's a red flag, isn't it? It's a bit of a red flag.
We've touched on it before as well, but I mean, like you said, the Sukhoi is a new type. There's no Sukhois registered on the South African CAA register, so that alone it takes a whole whack of time to get that all approved and everything. So, yeah, man, I think their timelines I hope they've done their research properly, but it's a little bit unrealistic to think that you'd be starting up an airline like that in 2022. You don't
want to throw something in the bin before it's you've given them a chance.
Of course.
And I think what we're doing here is not that, but what I certainly want to do today is just throw out a little bit of caution there. You can't look at a post on LinkedIn with someone starting a business and then pin your hopes to that startup. This is a hell of a long process, and it's been mentioned a couple of times by Clarence himself, saying that LinkedIn's been a wonderful platform to him. There's a lot of unemployed pilots out there. There's a lot of unemployed cabin crew, and he's received a hell of a lot of CVs. So I suppose in a time now, if you want to start an airline, it is a good time to start an airline. Let's face it, there's favorable lease rates on aircraft, there's crew around, so it's not a bad time. But man, starting an airline is not for sissies. It's a rigmarole, and there's a hell of a lot involved. You talk about types, Brett. Go back even before the pandemic. SA Express, right? Two types, the Dash and the CRJ. It was a nightmare. Just from a crew rostering point of view, it was a nightmare. I mean, theoretically, look, it's not always a bad idea to have, two types. If one of them gets grounded for whatever reason, then at least you've got another option.
Yeah.
But it's still a story. Now you're a new airline, you're going to look at three types. Anyway, let's not run it down, but just let's be cautious and not say, hey, I'm going to start flying for this new airline that's starting up. be very careful there. This is a long process.
In normal times, put it that way, I'm not so sure they would have received as much attention.
They wouldn't.
As opposed to now, where there's a lot of desperation out there. And yeah, he does run the risk of this backfiring terribly if there's delays, because, you know, all you need is cabin crew or a pilot saying, I'm in, this is it, I'm so excited. And then 18 months later, you know, that excitement has turned into something else which can backfire pretty badly.
Yeah, hitting the nail on the head there. I think, just it's caution out there. Maybe we try and get Clarence on the show and let
Tuesday night, Bryan Air live.
Yeah, chat to him, and then
I'd love
everyone
to.
can make up their own mind. I'll see if he's available. Might be worth it, and then at least we can hear what he has to say. If you decide it's a viable option to wait for, 'cause the reason that I'm quite passionate about this, a friend of ours who had an opportunity to go into a non-flying job is now holding off for a possible position at Skylink, and that's why I don't like it right now, because that concerns me a little bit. But anyway, enough about that. Should we move across a bit? There's Green Africa Airways in Nigeria. 25th of May they started up. Another Nigerian airline operating ATR 72-600s and some Airbus A220s on their way later in the year. So another real proper airline starting up in Nigeria. Nigeria, man, are they leading the way so far in startup airlines at least.
They're growing,
they're expanding unbelievably. There's one or two more new Embraer 145 airlines opened up in Nigeria as well.
Really?
So those guys are just getting moving now, which will be really good to see them. I don't know what routes they're going to do, but I've been in contact with two new airlines, and it'll be good to see the guys operational. I think the market is there out in Nigeria. It's a massive country, and it clearly there's not a shortage of cash. No. So money's been pumped into these airlines, and it'll be good to see them, flying, and hopefully start flying regionally as well.
Yeah.
In the States, have you guys followed Breeze Airways at all? The JetBlue founder, David Neilman. So he unveiled their debut network. Man, America has made the rest of the world look like a bunch of idiots by the way they've handled this, as far as I can see, certainly from an aviation perspective. Things are normalizing there rapidly. New airline there, 39 non-stop routes between 16 cities in the southwest, midwest, southeast, and eastern US. And
Americans have no shortage on thinking big.
No,
they definitely don't. I love that. Look, they fall down big at the same time.
Sure.
But the fact that how many routes? 40?
39 non-stop routes. But what's interesting with this, 95% of their routes that they're going to do, Brett, are new routes. They're not. No other airline is doing them. So it's quite a thing. No airline is serving the routes that they're going to do. So there is that market there. Obviously, they're going to operate the 13 single-class Embraer aircraft this summer, and then another whole bunch of A220s as well on their way. 60 of them they're looking at. So it's a big operation. I followed it quite closely because this airline has come out because of the pandemic.
Yeah.
Had it not been for this pandemic, probably wouldn't be seeing this new airline start up. So they've looked again, favorable lease rates, pilots available, all that sort of stuff. They've taken the opportunity and they've started. What we can also say there, Ryan, and maybe worthwhile a mention, Lyft got started very, very quickly in South Africa. Not everyone understands how they got started up so quickly, but obviously they're piggybacking off another AOC essentially.
Exactly.
So we can't write off anything with Skylink. It's not about that. But
Yeah,
I'm not so sure that's his plan, is it?
No, because of the way I understand it, I mean, if you want to try and compare apples with apples, is he's trying to start everything from the ground
Scratch,
up. You know,
yeah.
brand new AOC. Well, that's the way it's being delivered. Totally new aircraft type. Whereas Lyft were quite open and upfront about it from the get-go, saying, "Listen, we're partnering up with Global. Blah blah blah. This is our story. Set up shop and off they go."
Most importantly with that, sorry Brett, jumping in front of you, most importantly with that is the fact that Gidon Novik has been involved in aviation, knows what it's all about,
Yeah.
got a family history in the business, so
Exactly.
having his name tied to it with one of the Uber founders is kind of a good recipe for a successful startup company,
Exactly that.
whereas we're not necessarily seeing that with Skylink.
Yeah, I mean, and they were quite honest about it, the guys from Lyft. Get on saying, I'm partnering with the guys from Uber. We're thinking out the box, taking new ideas to get this thing started. Whereas this other chap seems to be a bit of a one-man band. There's no talk of expertise behind him. So yeah, I don't know.
In aviation,
Again,
at
just
least.
another red flag.
Well, in the aviation, I mean,
Yeah.
we've got the knowledge in house of what it's like to run an airline with your dad. I mean, Executive Aerospace, he ran that for 20, 30 odd years. We understand the difficulty with it. When we look at, if I have a look at some of my clients, some clients are using other airlines' AOC, but they do it in a smart way because they're using the same aircraft. So they're taking the bundle and making their own airline out of that other bundle. But if you look at the new airline in America, I'm amazed that there's 39 routes that nobody flies to.
Can you believe it?
It's not
It's a
like
lot.
the Americans are international travelers. They very seldom travel internationally, as a general, comment. So the fact is that there's these 39 untouched routes. You can make a proper meal out of scraps,
Well,
and it sounds like these guys are going to do it.
I remember my old man and I were looking at some aircraft back in 2007 in the States, and we had driven down to Roswell. There were some DC-9s,
I knew
717s.
he was an undercover UFO.
yeah,
Yeah.
I was just about to say, Roswell, isn't that where
Yeah.
they store all the UFOs?
Yeah, that is,
maybe the podcast host came from Roswell.
yeah, quite a place
It
actually.
would confirm a lot of...
It would make a lot of sense.
But anyway, we went, we were there and looking at some 717s. And we thought, well, what we'll do is we'll leave because it's out the way, seriously out the way, and we'll leave the car there. Roswell Airport's relatively big, and we'll fly from Roswell to Albuquerque. So we cruise down to the airport in our hired car and say we want a ticket to Albuquerque. They say, yeah, sure, next week Thursday. Once a week they
Really?
did that flight. Yeah, so America's big, eh?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And these guys are obviously jumping on that and looking at where there's potential there. But just an interesting airline because of the fact that the JetBlue founder has seen this as an opportunity, started up something new, and nice livery aircraft. It's a lovely color blue, really, really nice. They actually call it the nicest airline.
Really?
Yeah, everything about it is nice, they say. So, yeah. What
That's
I
nice.
kind of want to go and experience
Yeah.
this.
Yeah.
I wonder, I was just thinking about it now, thinking out loud, but are these little airlines that are going to, like this one that are starting up, are they going to get to capitalize on e-commerce as well? Because with these smallest towns, taking advantage of online shopping, etc., do they get
a
to
good point.
transport some of the cargo? Does that help? I'm wondering.
That's a good point.
I have no doubt that they're following the Bryan Air model.
yeah.
Fly into a place that nobody flies to, go inside there, go to the airport and say,
Yes.
right, we're going to bring passengers now. We want revenue from Starbucks, from the new Holiday Inn that's going to be built,
Exactly.
and generate.
Brett, dive
crap
into that a
load.
bit more because I don't think people know that model, and it's a very interesting model.
Yeah, so it's a brilliant model because that's what Ryanair did. They chose all these European destinations that nobody was flying to, And prior to landing there, they went through to those airports. They negotiated discounts on fuel. They negotiated discounts on landing fees. They negotiated a percentage of the fuel sold for new other airlines coming in, because you always have one leader and then you have a couple of followers. They went to the local hotels, the local restaurants, all of that. And as soon as they signed that up and started flying there, suddenly they weren't just generating ticket profits, because the tickets were so cheap.
Yep.
They didn't make profit off the tickets, but they made profit off the car hire, the hotels, the landing fees, cheap fuel, all of that. So I have no doubt this new venture is going to do the same thing out of the state. I mean, any type of e-commerce you spoke about there, Ryan. I mean, Alaskan Airlines just saved 480,000 gallons of fuel because of a clever scheduling system they've implemented. I mean, put a price to that. That's some serious savings for an airline.
Yeah.
Makes a massive difference. Yeah. You got to be sharp nowadays.
Got to be sharp. Sardinia was one of those places where there were not many tourists going there. The airport was all derelict. And Bryan Air started flying in there, little percentages from each of the little shops in the airport, all those little things. Like you said, I was in the UK. I spent a year there in 2001. My friend and I flew to, where did we go? Vienna, I think. I can't even remember. But we flew there for 40 cents. 40 pence, I should say, on Bryan Air, genuine. And obviously we paid the taxes on top of that. But they exactly that. They weren't overly worried about the ticket prices. They just wanted a full aircraft flying to these destinations. So you're right. Possibly using that model. Nice to see new airlines starting up. But in America, not only are new ones starting up, the carriers are bringing back their old staff.
Yeah.
The furloughed staff are coming back, which is fantastic. Delta, United, American, all of them bringing cabin crew and pilots back into the mix. So
Fly Dubai's doing the same thing.
Yep,
over 1,000 employees. Coming back.
Yeah.
I mean, it's brilliant.
That's why there are elements of a recovery coming. It's definitely there. I mean, CAT are very vocal about. They can see where they've made their mistakes in the past and what they planning to do to rectify them going forward, and they're going to continue growing. So that's why we remain optimistic.
In Europe, though, there hasn't been the sort of recovery that you would expect from Europe. You see all those pilots in Ireland lined up the other day in the streets, all wearing their uniforms to get government to, get people aware that government needs to get aviation going again, because it's simply not happening. The UK, slow start in Europe for the summer season. In fact, that summer season, I think over 60% of the tickets are normally sold by this stage anyway. So we're well through that summer period of not the travel per se, but certainly the purchasing of tickets. That recovery now, according to Eurocontrol, which is normally relatively accurate with these things, they're saying in Europe 2025 to see a full recovery, which is not fantastic. However, vaccinated visitors plan to, go to the EU. It looks like that's going to become a thing. So show your vaccination and you can visit our country.
Yeah,
I think it's inevitable. Passport,
it is.
Paperless passport, show your vaccine and you can go in. So I think a lot of this is being downplayed at the moment, but when those vaccines are rolled out,
it's just going to pop up.
It's going to be quick.
Quick.
Yeah.
I mean, Delta is expecting its largest European season in the history of the airline.
That's crazy.
So if they're planning that in advance, and that's now, I mean, that's a couple of weeks away for them.
Yeah.
So if they are announcing that, then there's going to be some serious traffic into Europe.
Yeah, they will.
And they are basing that on the fact that majority of the population has received vaccines.
Yeah.
And they're probably going to have the passport, whatever it is, whatever form they, eventually come to a single thing. And travel's going to be open again.
Traveling everywhere to Europe except Belarus.
Yeah, let's talk about that in Belarus, because that's a shocker. I mean, that is a shocker. People ask me if the pilots were in the wrong. They certainly weren't in the
No.
wrong. They got given information, and then a follow me aircraft, which happened to be a MiG-29,
Exactly.
telling you to go and land somewhere. You're going to follow that MiG-29.
Generally.
There's no. I mean, from a pilot's perspective, you're sitting there cruising along. You're receiving instruction. You know, you need to land now. You're like, question it. The next minute, this MiG pops up, waving his wings, and he's got a couple of missiles attached to him. It's gonna make for a bit of a bowel movement, and you will follow orders.
Yeah.
You will follow the exit directions.
So no, they definitely weren't in the wrong.
It definitely gets your attention. There's no doubt. I've had some experience with the South African Air Force where I was flying through a corridor and they contacted me. It was normal procedure, but still, it wasn't the greatest experience. They threatened to send a car to follow me, but nevertheless.
If you don't know what we're talking about there, obviously that Bryan Air aircraft diverted to Minsk. 3 passengers got off. One of them, someone is now facing death sentence there. He's a journalist, a young journalist. So it's really an attack against journalism, as opposed to, certainly not an attack against a civil aviation, although the fact that civil aviation was used for something like this, obviously the Americans have jumped on board. There was a lot of Americans on that aircraft, so they're saying you can't put our people in danger, and we can expect big sanctions against the government there. Obviously not going to get into the politics of all of that, but from certainly a big story and something you expect to see in a movie rather than over the news.
Exactly.
It's a real,
Look, the backlash has been pretty wild.
Yeah.
Banning across the board.
Yeah.
And they deserve it, eh?
Yeah.
They must. We'll see what happens there, but a hell of a story.
Yeah, when it's labeled as a hijacking.
Yeah,
that's quite a serious thing.
The Singapore.
I mean, we used to that.
Yeah. The Singapore-Hong Kong travel bubble has been delayed again.
Yeah.
So it's because of the increased cases in Singapore. So you're going to find these things. The tickets were already sold. People expecting to. Again, doesn't help the travel cause, does it?
No.
Puts people off, but that is very isolated there right now. South Africa, we okay, right now. We're getting by.
Yeah, look, I think it's just typical South African mentality. We are a bit of a
cowboy.
Yeah, we're a hardcore bunch for the most part. If I want to.
Resilient.
Yeah. I was looking for the right words without having to create a few beeps, but we tough stuff, man. So I think, for the most part, we also kind of just are over it.
Got on with it.
Trying to get on with life and, make the best of what we can with what we have. And, I mean, I haven't paid any attention to these rising numbers or whatever. I just don't listen to that. But I believe it is a bit of a thing. I was actually wondering about it the other day. We haven't had a what are those family meetings for a while.
Fellow South Africans.
Yeah, I wonder what's happened to those.
I think we have. we
just haven't been
watching.
Yeah.
Oh, jeez.
Can we talk about manufacturers a bit? I found it quite interesting listening to Tim Clark from Emirates chat the other day. They were talking about the 777X. And obviously now the manufacturers are under much more pressure to produce a product that they promised in the first place. So if you promise certain range and fuel burns and speeds in the past, the airlines, the manufacturers haven't always been able to come up with exactly what was promised at the beginning. And it's been quite a thing. And he's been very vocal in saying no more. That's to do with the engines and, of course, the airframe as well. So certainly the manufacturers now, and Boeing in this case, under big pressure to produce a product that does what they say it can do, which is a good thing, I think. And his reasoning there is you can't, you buy a particular aircraft and those figures that are available you use to plan your business model going forward for the next 10 years. So if those figures, bad information in is going to give bad information out. He's basically said if they don't meet those those figures, you're breaking the contract, and they will not stand for it. So he's quite firm about it.
And he's 100% in his right to do that, because any business, whether you're a one-man show, mom and pop shop, or a massive airline, if you are not planning and forecasting going forward and what your strategy is, and when you have identified a chosen product and that product doesn't perform according to your numbers, and in the airline industry we know how sensitive that is. I mean, it's every little thing needs to be, every box needs to be ticked and checked, and here you've got an airline manufacturer who, well, maybe it's not good enough, maybe will never ever work. You've got to be definite.
It's definitely more important now. Prior to the pandemic, I mean, manufacturers are trying to save money, and obviously did that by trying to, instead of developing a whole new design, rather improve on existing models, etc., and look at what happened to the Max. Now, where they're forced to, save even more money because of job loss, all that stuff. Yeah, it's very, very important that they stick to
and
what they promise.
When the order is for 115 aircraft, I think that was the number.
Yeah.
I mean, that is a serious
it's a big order.
I would expect Boeing would be giving a lot of attention to this.
Staying with Boeing, there's plans for a total redesign of the single aisle aircraft. In other words, the 737. I don't know if you've seen the latest drawings for the proposed, what it's going to look like. It's a high wing, it's supported by a truss underneath.
Yeah.
Quite a strange looking design. But what's interesting with this one, obviously the Biden administration, looks like there's going to be a lot of money given to NASA for this particular project, and keep a close eye on it, because the fuel burns, there's talk of numbers coming down by 40-50% by 2030. Yeah, it's quite incredible. A weird looking aircraft. But what is interesting, because it's such a radical new design, Boeing don't want to make the mistake they made with the 787 and the batteries. So they're actually going to build a proper prototype.
Yeah.
And that prototype, because they've relied obviously in recent years of modeling, and obviously the wind tunnels are so good, and the computerized modeling is so good, they haven't had to do that. But this, it looks like there'll actually be an X-plane in conjunction with NASA. So this will be flying around as an X-plane for a while before it starts flying passengers around.
Cool.
Importantly for us, it's a piloted aircraft. So the NMA, the normal mid-size aircraft, I think Boeing called it, that's now scrapped, and this new design is, keep a lookout for this. We'll talk about it a bit more next week, because it's quite a big story, and it'll be a nice one to follow from the start.
Yeah, Airbus are also also starting to look at designs on the A322 is what they're talking at. But yeah, I'll do some more research on that. And
You mentioned pilot and pilotless aircraft. That's going to be an interesting discussion. So I'd like to book tag that one, because that's a
huge one.
Well, it's a huge one, because the mindset is slowly starting to change, and this change is not coming from the airline industry, which we all know where that's coming from. So it's going to be an interesting discussion. Let's do that.
They're staying with manufacturer side, that Arion supersonic aircraft. You see that that was going to fly. That Boeing was their strategic partner, unfortunately for these guys. I don't think right now Boeing is the best strategic partner in the world. They've got their own issues going on, so they're certainly not going to be pumping money into another company. So unfortunately for them, that aircraft was going to carry between 8 and 10 packs, Mach 0.14, which isn't lightning fast.
Yeah, Mach 2 would be better.
Yeah. Boeing as a partner in 221, not the best. Arion themselves picked up a bit of criticism from Boeing, because they were taking very much of an oversight role as opposed to getting their hands dirty in the actual design. Looks like they wanted Boeing to do a lot of the actual design work of the nitty-gritty parts, and so it looks like the relationship there is sort of fallen apart, and that project has now been scrapped. But you look at how much work, I mean, this project goes back quite a few years. huge amount of work goes into these things, and they get scrapped so quickly. Obviously, lack of money, but quite sad because it's a good-looking aircraft. Certainly, the design phase look very good.
Yeah.
But that's not going to happen. That's now scrapped. No more strategic partners. No equity coming in. So end of the Aryan supersonic aircraft for now. It looks like this other Boeing aircraft, the new single aisle that they're proposing, the initial plans, this was going to cruise about Mach 0.7. So it was quite a slow machine,
Yeah.
relatively speaking. They've swept the wing back a bit further now, and it looks like it's going to be Mach 0.8, 0.84. So at least that's improved somewhat. But I think that this new radical design of that Boeing is going to be revolutionary. I think so. Quite a nice article there in the Air Current by John Ostrower, if you want to have a look at that.
It's going to be interesting.
It will. Did you guys see the article with Turkish and their influence on Africa, Ryan?
I actually wanted to bring that up because when I came across this, I realized we don't talk about Turkish a whole lot. I don't know, it's because I suppose all other airlines have been so predominant in the news, but a big airline, and they mustn't be forgotten. I mean, they're taking over. They're basically one of the biggest airlines operating into Africa from Europe at the moment. Yeah, so
the biggest, I think.
Yeah, the biggest. They're operating to, just get my numbers right here because I had it all lined up and then I pushed a button.
Well, what's interesting with
53 passenger destinations across the continent. So that's quite a lot.
It is. What's interesting with them is how they do those particular flights. So they believe in a point-to-point type of system, and then they utilize the aircraft very well. Take the South African route, Istanbul to Johannesburg. Packs get off in Joburg, some stay on and then fly across to Maputo. That's the type of routes they were doing. So they were important to Africa. We've spoken about Qatar quite a lot, connecting Africa from the east, but Turkish certainly is connecting Africa with Europe.
Definitely an underrated airline. There's no doubt about it. I love the fact that, the average aircraft in Turkish is only 7.5 years old.
They get used.
They get used properly. But they're not operating 10-year, 20-year-old aircraft.
No.
So they obviously got a good strategy there to update and bring the latest and greatest. And I suppose you need that. You need that reliability and that, especially into Africa, and you're not using that hub and spoke type of scenario because you can't.
Well, actually, I think Turkey were gearing themselves up to be quite a big adversary to Dubai in terms of the hub and spoke system, because they just finished building their new airport. The old one's called Antalya, the other one's massive airport, and I think they were gearing towards trying to compete with Emirates in that hub and spoke system, obviously prior to the whole COVID thing. I definitely keep an eye on that airline. They're worth watching.
There's something interesting out of it though, because on this interview the other morning with the SAA CEO, one of the areas where he was put under big pressure in this interview, and he dodged it about as good as Farrell did Cheslin Colby's sidestep in the World Cup. They're putting him under pressure to say, who is this equity partner, and when are you going to announce this equity partner? So you're talking about hub and spokes and big airlines coming into Africa. We spoke about Turkish before. You wonder if Turkish is not part of that plan.
Well, they've been in that throw for a long time.
They have. I just don't see them buying into something that's going to be controlled by South African government. We spoke about that with the one Nigerian startup airline. The government didn't want equity, or they wanted 5%, but they wanted control. I don't see anything different can happen with SAA. It looks like control will certainly be there. Certainly from an employment side, it looks like it's going to be there. So Turkish coming in, they're going to want to do things their own way. They know how to do it. They're certainly not going to be pushed around and shown what to do. But wouldn't it be fantastic if Turkish did come in and put a base here in Johannesburg and Cape Town and we had a hub and spoke, Turkish hub and spoke, yeah, I think it would be good.
I'd use them.
Oh.
No doubt about that.
I mean, and look, and they've got a hell of a fleet. I mean, from 777s to 73s to Embraers. I mean, they don't mess around. So, yeah, they're a strong airline. I can't see them being of the mindset that they would take orders from a bunch of SAA.
No.
I think we all sitting around the table rate Turkish Airlines, but if they become the partner for SAA, with the South African government having control in any form or even sight of the bank account, I'm going to be seriously concerned about the management style of Turkish.
It won't be long till the end. You see the end of Turkish.
Yeah.
Might need to edit that out.
Yeah, look, it's it would be good for South African aviation, no doubt about that. But you mentioned all the types that they use. I think they've been held now to say, we've spoken about narrow bodies and using them on long haul flights. They touted as being one of the best users of using the right aircraft on the right route.
Yeah.
So they've done the correct things operationally, which is good.
Yeah.
Anyway, there was a lot to chat about this week. It's been fantastic being back in the studio.
Has been great.
There's a lot more news forthcoming, and there's a few interesting topics, stories on the table for us.
Yeah, I didn't realize how quickly the time has flown today, because we were making comment earlier. Being live, an hour disappears so quickly, it's unbelievable. Here was a little bit more difficult. Now today, I think we're just used to this now. It just flows. But I want to talk next week. I really want to talk about Ian Findley's comment that he made on the live show. And I've been so interested in it. He speaks about survivor guilt, having now taken a position with Seme, and how he was holding back from telling people about it. So next week I'd love to spend 5 minutes just talking about that. I just found it so interesting.
Yeah, Ryan and I did the same thing. Because your close mates and that are not working, and you sort of downplay what you're doing because you sort of feel bad. But now there's a lot of people that are starting to pick up jobs and that. And Ryan would agree, certainly from my side, when we were able to be a bit more open about what we're doing, right? The podcast is doing well. We're operating here at Sim Aero. Being part of this company here, which is growing at a rapid rate. Once we could be a bit more vocal about it, it actually allowed us to relax a bit more, and we could talk a bit more freely. So I think it's important that you can talk about these things, and you can say, hey, I have got a new job. I am doing something with it. I am moving forward with my life. So if you want to talk to me about negative stuff, please go phone someone else. That's important. You don't want to get trapped in that circle of negativity. I spoke to Angie McIntosh about that. She says, you get a bunch of people, and you put pilots in particular. You say, right, let's meet down at the pub or on the beach or whatever. Inevitably, if you're there with 3 unemployed pilots, you're going to leave that meeting in not a particularly good frame of mind.
The impact can be massive. You don't even realize how that can affect you.
It's huge, man. There's 2 things to this. I mean, first of all, you mustn't underestimate how liberating it is to actually be able to say, you know what, I'm back on my feet, and I've got a direction, and I'm going to chase it and go. It's good for you. You need that. You need to be able to channel your focus, and because we goal orientated individuals as pilots. The other thing is, you don't mind if I just carry on for a little bit, Brian?
Please, man.
But I had a get together with some mates a couple of days ago, and my one pal has managed to hold on to his job. He's got a very good job overseas, still flying 747s, and luckily for him, things have worked out. And I could see in this little social circle when we were together, 2 of us had lost our airline jobs. He's doing okay. And when the conversation started getting steered towards, one of us was saying, life is just so crap, and I don't have this, and I don't have that. And I could see the look on his face. And that survivor guilt was like, it was evident. And then I could see myself having to try and steer the conversation in that direction, because you don't want to make him feel bad for surviving. It shouldn't be that way, you know.
Yeah.
So there's definitely more talk that needs to be
Oh man, there's
done about this.
survivor guilt has got it's such an interesting topic.
You have to, I don't know, the negativity, there's no place for it. People
Yeah.
must get out of that and come right, man, and just carry on.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Sorry.
No, I'm glad
It's a bit
you
of a
said
thing.
that
I'm quite
because
passionate about it as well.
Exactly, and that's why I'd love to spend some time next week, next podcast.
We will. It's a good one. I wonder if we shouldn't have old Angie on our live show at some point as well to have a chat about this stuff.
That'd be cool.
Yeah.
Because I'll tell you what, a lot of what she talks about is this sort of thing. And I think it boils down to having the right people around you with the right advice, come out the other side, if anything, just with a slightly more positive frame of mind.
Exactly.
Jordan Peterson's got a quote that says, leave every room that you go to slightly better than it was before you walked in. I think that goes the same with meeting and talking to people as well.
Yep.
If you have a conversation with someone, make sure they leave that conversation in a slightly better frame of mind than they were.
Any interaction you have with another individual, you should walk away feeling great that you brought something to the table, and that person should walk away feeling uplifted in some way.
Exactly.
Yeah. If we can all do that, it would be quite a nice thing.
Good place to live.
Certainly try to do that with the podcast, and we'll continue trying to do that. Obviously, back here in the studio for the podcast version of the show. This show goes out as a podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, Amazon Music, Google Play, Ghana, everywhere. So our Tuesday show, we're going to keep that to be purely a live broadcast. That's the evening show, Bryan Air Live. Tuesdays at 7, broadcast on Facebook and YouTube and Twitch for now. Might add a few different other destinations at some point. I don't know, maybe we add LinkedIn on at some stage. I'm not so sure the type of vibe we have suits that. We sit there with a whiskey, we have a bit of a chat. There's an odd swear word that comes in. LinkedIn's quite a formal place, so probably not the best platform for that. But if you got any thoughts about that show, any way we can improve it, then shoot us a comment. Please let us know. And
let us know if you actually want to join us on the live show as well. Send us a message and let's schedule it. If you want to be part of it, then we'd love to have you.
And it's not as scary as people think.
No, it's
doing
chilled.
the live show is so chilled. From our perspective, when we decided to start the live show, there was that little bit of anxiety. Oh, how's this going to go? What's going to happen? And you just go with the flow. It's just so easy. It's an absolute pleasure. The more guests, the better. It's actually fun having a guest there on that show. Really is great.
Yeah, we'll try and push to have a guest on every week. Doesn't always work because sometimes plans change at the last minute, but then we'll still do a show anyway. And the anxiety incredibly gets diminished the more glasses of loudmouth soup that you have before the show. So
funny that, huh?
Yeah.
I don't know how that works.
Yeah. And what we mustn't write off as well, if we don't necessarily have to do that show with one guest, we can actually have 2 or 3 other guests on at the same time. And you don't have to be on for the full hour. You can come and have a 15-minute chat with us, where you are, what you're doing, what you're flying, if you still got your job, had a nice time, cheers. And then we can do that.
I'm just having visions of this becoming more of a virtual nightclub than anything else.
Maybe we start something. But it's turned into
it's a hell of a cool, man.
It turned into a cool
That's
thing.
great. I love it.
Yeah. Guys, wonderful to be back in the studio. Thanks for your support through this period. For all the people that carried on listening to us while we weren't here as well, thank you. Really is a pleasure doing this show. As always, we'll be back next week, of course. And Angie McIntosh, if you want to get in touch with her again, details will be in the show notes. Support the companies that are doing their bit for networking in South Africa. Go Aviate 1, Aviation 4SA, and other. Don't forget Avia Dev Conference coming up as well. Register for that. It's going to be really, really good. And until next week, unless we've forgotten anything, guys, we'll say goodbye for now.
Cheerio.
Have a good one. Cheers, guys.
Cheers, guys.